So I'm not going to spend a lot of time going over each one of these different symptoms of right hemisphere communication problems. I think that if you look at them individually, in light of what we talked about in terms of these individuals having cognitive issues, the coarse coding problems, the suppression problems, I think you can begin to imagine how these basic issues can result in some of these symptoms, like difficulty appreciating humor, non-literal language, problems with inferencing, etc. To some degree, again, people with right hemisphere damage are different. So it's not as if a person with right hemisphere damage is going to have all of these issues. It will depend to some degree on where their stroke was. If the stroke was in the frontal lobe, right, where executive functions are, they're more likely to have executive function problems, and therefore their communication problems are going to kind of reflect more of their executive function problems. So on the expression end, we can have difficulty kind of maintaining a cohesive story, right? Because executive functions involve our ability to kind of plan and sequence things. And when we tell a story, for example, we have, although we don't, spend a lot of time thinking about it, because we're quite good at this, we go through it in steps, and we manipulate those steps to make the story better, etc., etc. Attention problems, you can see interacting or causing some of these symptoms, and I'm not specific because, again, we don't know a lot about right hemisphere communication impairments in terms of their underlying cause. We know that these are the symptoms that we commonly see. Again, notice that these symptoms don't come from the basic problem of understanding what the words mean or hearing the words correctly or any of those aphasia-related problems. They have to do with interpretation, about implied meanings. In the popular media, there's this idea that the right hemisphere is creative and, draw from the right side of the brain, etc. And I think that, what we've been talking about with this idea that the right hemisphere activates distant related meanings, that it can suppress things that are not appropriate. Maybe it's just more non-literal meanings, less typical meanings of a word that are appropriate in a particular conversation, so we have to suppress the dominant meaning. And that's how we get humor and things like that. The chart here from Dr. Tompkins is, I think, a pretty good list of the common problems. There is also a list in your book. And Dr. Tompkins has included some of the common cognitive problems also.